time fly by. Yes, I'm disabsurd, sucking on a rolling, still staring hard, realising people watching, vinegar's and hearts. Happy, go lucky, watching the time fly by. Happy, overlucky, the reason is still unsure why, oh why, oh why. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Two Banks of Four podcast. Before we start, we just want to thank everybody who obviously watched the podcast last week. We clocked up about 385 plus viewers, which we couldn't believe. It was absolutely amazing. We didn't expect to get any more than like 40 or 50, but the fact that so many people watched it and gave their feedback on what we could do better and what they enjoyed, and especially the people who said they're going to look forward to it in the coming weeks, that really meant a lot to us. So thank you for that. All the people who subscribed as well, that was absolutely amazing. So we couldn't really ask for more. So the music you've just clicked on the video and listened to, you probably took a few of you by surprise, because it's not the kind of music you associate with a football kind of podcast, I guess. But that music's by the band The Ernest Spears. A friend of ours is in that band, and we spoke to him, and yeah, their music's the kind of thing that some people listening to this podcast may like. So we're going to drop their links down in the description. Make sure you go over to their Spotify, over to their YouTube, and their links all down below. Give them some support. If you like their single, make sure you go stream it and download it. Alongside this, we've also been requested to give our good friend Alfie O'Donoghue, who a lot of you will know, his fitness page on Instagram, Big Bold Fitness, which he's started up alongside what he's doing over there in the army. So we're going to give that a shout out. That'll be in the links down below. So aside from that, last week we talked about the England squad. We talked about the situation at Bury, and obviously we saw the England results. Nothing new is through with Bury is in such a confirmed position next season, but we'll touch on that at a later date. Today, the first thing we're going to be talking about is the Watford manager situation. So Tommy, do you want to give us a bit of light on what's happened in the last week?
Alright, so I know it's been like a really debated thing whether Javi Gracia should have been sacked or not. A lot of people are saying that he shouldn't have. I'm just going to tell you first of all why the Watford board were right to sack Javi Gracia. He had 1 point from a possible 12 games, and that is terrible, isn't it? That is really shocking, especially when you consider the teams that he's actually come up against. He's lost to Brighton at home, Everton away, lost to West Ham at home, and then drew 1-1 away to Newcastle. And really, when you look at them teams, you should be getting a minimum of about 4 points, maybe even 5. He's played none of the top 6 teams, so really, they should have a better start considering the Watford squad that he's had. You've also got to trust the board, really. They probably know what they're doing more than you and I do, more than anyone else does. It was similar to the Ranieri situation at Leicester, where they had 13 games to go. He was 1 point above the relegation zone. You got to look where Leicester are now. They are securely in the Premier League, and they're pushing for a place in Europe. Sometimes you got to sack managers for the greater good. It's short-term pain for long-term gain. If Watford went down, Gracia would have gone and got another job somewhere else. So he would have been history. But the price of relegation is absolutely massive. People lose their jobs.
That is very true, yeah.
It's really not worth taking the risk of keeping a manager if you don't believe that he's going to be able to keep you up. They were very quick in appointing Quique Sanchez-Flores as well. It was about half an hour after they announced that they were going to sack him. So to be fair to them, they knew what they were going to do straight away. They had a plan.
Do you think that Javi Gracia would have known that he was being sacked a long time before they announced it? Because half an hour is a very, very small turnaround for a manager, and you kind of got to sympathise with Gracia in the sense that if they've already had Quique Sanchez-Flores, who's also his fellow countryman, lined up, is that showing a bit of disrespect in your opinion? Or
It was the same with Pochettino when he came to Southampton. He said that he was studying the Southampton team weeks before Nigel Adkins got sacked. So boards know what they're going to do way in advance of what anyone else does. He's been there before, so he knows the club, he knows the league, which is the two most important things. He was there in Watford's first season where they were arguably at their most vulnerable in the Premier League, and he finished 13th in the league with a 36% win percentage, which is obviously amazing for a club that's just got promoted. Also, you've got to look at the timing. The next time that really they could sack him is the next international break, which is another couple of months or so away. I think it's like November, isn't it?
Yeah. You're looking at that kind of length of time.
Yeah. So, he basically came in and had 2 weeks to set up the lineup, settle in at the club. So he wasn't really thrown in at the deep end. So I think if you're going to sack anyone, it needs to be when the new manager has enough time to come in and get his squad ready for their first game. So that's why the Watford board should have sacked him. They were wrong in sacking him because it was only 4 games in.
Are you sure it wasn't a reflex decision? That's what I'm focusing on here, because
obviously
you look at the season they had last year, it was very impressive.
Yeah.
They not only had a solid foundation in the league throughout, they never really looked in trouble.
No.
They may have dipped towards the end of it, but some teams do when they have such a good season out of expectation.
Yeah.
You've also got to take into account their FA Cup run. I mean, you and I both know how the FA Cup's not seen as being as important as it should be.
No.
Especially since the formation of the Champions League.
And we will also touch on that in a few weeks.
Yeah, which is going to be a heavily debated episode. But in my opinion, if you get to an FA Cup final and you have a solid league performance, you can't sack a manager with that much reflex all of a sudden. It's like a panic decision. They've given this man their reins unless Watford have a system where their board does all their transfers, right?
Yeah.
Which they may well do. Because I know Watford are a strange club in the sense that they like sacking and appointing their managers, and they also very often appoint people that nobody's heard of outside the country.
Javi Gracia is the first Watford manager since 2013 to last more than a season.
Exactly. But you take into those moments that he's given those Watford fans, that semi-final against Wolves in the FA Cup, for example, plus the great league results they've pulled off, I just think if they have given this man charge of their transfer business all summer, why are you sacking him after 4 games? Don't you think that's a bit of a knee-jerk reaction?
I do understand, but like I said, if you truly believe that he is going to get you relegated, then you need to get him out as soon as possible.
Do you see any similarities in the situation with Aston Villa and Tim Sherwood the season that Aston Villa got relegated? Obviously, you got them to an FA Cup final, but you got to look at the league position in comparison. He saved them rather than got them a foundation. He managed to keep his job for, I think it was 6 games.
But Tim Sherwood never had the experience that Javi Gracia had. Tim Sherwood literally came from the coaching team at Spurs to the manager's position and then went over to Villa. So that is pretty much, I think he had less than a year at Spurs before we sacked him. And then he went over to a struggling Villa side. So he's not really the type of manager in the long term that's going to, help sort of build Aston Villa as a club.
Yeah, that's fair.
So he was never really given. So Gracia was never really given a proper crack at the whip for this season. So he was only 4 games in, and that is way too early to sack a manager.
One thing I feel about Watford, and their fans may disagree with me in every aspect here, and I may get disagreements from other fans, but don't you feel like Watford are often kind of never happy and punching above their weight? Like, what more can a club like Watford expect other than a mid-table finish in an FA Cup final? What more are they aiming for there?
I think that if you're not in the top 6 and you're not Everton or West Ham, arguably Leicester as well, you should be looking to survive in the Premier League, and that's the only thing you should be happy with. As long as you don't get relegated, it should be a good season for you. No, like Bournemouth are a tiny club. They are tiny.
I agree they're tiny, but you look at what they do on the pitch, the way they go about their transfer business and the way they play and the management team they got, they could easily be mistaken for one of the better teams in the Premier League.
But you've got to appreciate the size of the club and where you are in the Premier League. Basically, that's pretty much it. If your expectations, the Watford board's expectations, really were too high, I think. Yeah.
Well, going back to Quique Sanchez-Flores, I don't think that's been. Obviously, the initial reaction on social media was one of a bit of confusion. Do we know why they've gone back to Quique Sanchez-Flores? It's obviously a man that knows the club, but if you've been sacked by your former employer and then they come back to you 3 seasons later with limited progress, what's Quique Sanchez-Flores seeing there? He must have been offered some promises as to transfers.
Exactly, that's the point though. That it's not Watford's problem what Quique Sanchez-Flores thinks, really, is it? To do with the transfers, Watford this summer had the 5th lowest spend in the league, which was about 35 million, and the 4th lowest net spend. So they weren't really backing Javi Gracia financially, and there was only so much that you could do with a squad without improving it.
Is this another example? So you've got the other 14 teams aside from the big 6, minus West Ham, Everton, and Leicester. I think it's actually Leicester's a good example because you take those teams. I think that these teams have all been proven. Other than Wolves, I think we're getting Wolves in this conversation as well.
Wolves should also be grateful that they're still in the Premier League. I think you got to learn to walk before you can run, and I think that them getting 7th.
That's a bit harsh.
No, I think that them
getting
some
very good stuff last year.
Yeah, they might do but they could go down so easily, couldn't they?
I mean, I'm not sure about that statement, but anyway, to my point, I think that the other 16 teams, minus the 3 or 4, so we're looking at the bottom half. You've got to reinforce your team if you finish in that bottom half of the Premier League. We've seen it. Was it Southampton last year who hardly reinforced their team in the summer before? Brighton the same. When you've still got Glenn Murray up front, albeit he scores the odd goal, is if you've got him as your main striker, you're always going to struggle with no backup.
Yeah.
You need to reinvest and spend money. Whether you spend it in the right way, that's what you find out. But you've got to give yourself a chance because the things of the Premier League, you know the price of relegation. I know the price of relegation.
Well, I don't really because we've never been relegated.
Yeah, but you see what happens to clubs. You look at Stoke and Huddersfield right now.
Yeah.
Very, very struggling in the Championship, slumping at the bottom. But you know how important it is to stay up. If you don't reinvest your cash that you're getting from these TV deals in the transfer window after a struggling season, what can you expect? What can you expect? Watford, they've come off the back of a good season, but they dipped towards the end.
Yeah.
They had to reinvest. They had to use the chance of... They've got the appeal of an FA Cup final and a club looking to push forward. That's what Leicester did. Leicester had a bad season with Ranieri. Shakespeare took the reins and obviously steadied the ship.
Yeah.
The season after their Claude Puel, he had an alright season, got them mid to top table, if I remember correctly. But they pushed forward, and now they've got Brendan Rodgers in charge, who's, in my opinion, one of the better British managers. I know he's very, very looked down on, I guess, and I think he's a bit of an underdog in the Premier League. Like if you look at the manager chart.
Whenever I see him, I just think about that Gerrard slip, and it makes me
smile.
smile.
But you've got to appreciate how well he got a poor Liverpool side playing, albeit he had Suarez.
Oh yeah, that team was terrible. Yeah,
he got
really
that playing very, very well.
Apart from Suarez and Sturridge, you look at that team, and they would get absolutely brushed aside by Man City.
Literally, and you've also got to look at the money you're spending. He had next to none. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, I just feel like Watford maybe are punching above their weight. And they should have reinvested a lot more and backed the manager. I mean, for all we know, you could have given them another 5 games. I know they've got some very hard fixtures coming up, but you could have given them another 5 games and they could be mid-table, having picked up some results. Obviously, Watford fans will be interested to hear your opinions below because you know a lot more than we do. But was it right to sack Javi Garcia? We're going to leave a poll on the side of the video above, so feel free to vote in that. Moving on swiftly, we're going to touch on a topic that came up in 2018 and was a big talking point for a while. We're going to touch on it purely because the international break's just been, and it's been a slow week for like the news in football, obviously with the internationals. But the FA Wembley sale of the stadium. What's your opinion on that, and where do we lay now?
So I was just watching the England Kosovo game, and I was just thinking about how we weren't playing at Wembley, and it was such a positive thing. So here's the story how it went. So in October 2018, Shahid Khan, who was the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Fulham withdrew a £600 million bid to buy Wembley Stadium off the FA. He withdrew it due to, quote, his offer being seen as more divisive than it was anticipated to be. It's mainly down to the FA making more money renting it out than selling it. And also it being considered the home of football, so you can't really sell it to somebody who's not really going to play that many games of football in it. But I think that we should have sold it 100%, and here's why. It's not the home of football anymore. It is
Can we just talk about the fact that Shahid Khan did say that England would still be playing all their games?
He said that cup finals could still be played there.
He's not. Just to clarify for some viewers, because when I first heard this story break, and a lot of people probably thought the same, when you see the headline that the FA are selling Wembley, you instantly think, "Oh my God, the Wembley Stadium's never going to be used again by cup finals, by England." No, that's not the case here.
No.
Shahid Khan wants ownership, but obviously he said, and the FA would most likely get a clause in any contract for sale, that the games, the cup finals, the semi-finals, and the internationals would still be played at Wembley Stadium.
They basically didn't want to sell it because they could make more money renting it out than they could actually selling it.
Which is fair enough.
They've hosted. It's not the home of football anymore because it's hosted concerts, it's hosted boxing, it's hosted the NFL, it's hosted. I feel like it hosted motorsports once or something like that. Might be the old Wembley, but anyway, if you're calling something the home of football, football needs to be the only thing that goes on in that stadium. It's got no historical importance anymore. Because it's not the same Wembley before they knocked it down in 2003. They opened it in 2007, so really it's only got 12 years of history, and that is nothing, is it? So you can't use the excuse of, oh, it's a really historical landmark, because it's not really anymore. If you want to talk about it being a football ground, the FA didn't even own it until 1999. So that, I don't know when it was created, invented, built. I don't know when it was built.
Probably a long time ago.
Yeah, but that's what well over 50, 60 years of the FA not actually owning it, so it not being primarily a football ground. The FA said that it was going to be invested in improving grassroots football and public football facilities. It was
1929, the old Wembley Stadium. No, 1923, the old stadium.
Yeah, so that's only like less than 8 years. They weren't really going to invest it in grassroots and public facilities. They was only saying that, really,
here's
weren't
my
they?
argument. Once I looked into it, I agreed with the statement that the FA should have sold Wembley, purely because if they used the money correctly, the chances for grassroots football, which we're going to talk about in the next episode, I think. I have some very passionate opinions on that, and I'm sure you do as well. But if they'd have put the money that they'd have got from the Wembley sale into grassroots football, then, in my opinion, it would have been well worth it. Would have been absolutely well worth it. And that's what Gary Neville said. I'll quote Gary Neville saying this, because I think he's absolutely right. If you are going to bang on about the home of football and how important the Wembley Stadium is, the best thing Wembley Stadium could have done for football was get sold and push money into the grassroots game. There's enough money at the top level that no money needed to be transferred from the Wembley Stadium sale into anything other than grassroots football.
Yeah, but they was never really going to do that, was they? They were only saying they were going to do it.
I very much doubt they were, but still, I think that you've got to take that into obviously consideration. They should have put every single penny, if they'd have sold it, into grassroots football.
So also, if people are worried about it not being a football field anymore, Mark Waller, who was the NFL Executive Vice President, said that London could host a permanent NFL team. So it's going to be a sports field anyway. It wasn't as though it was going to be completely knocked down and unrecognisable.
We've also got to look at the fact that I think, personally, and I'm sure lots of people will disagree with me, I think Wembley lost a lot of authority by letting Spurs use it for the majority of their games that one season. Because
where else was we meant to play?
yeah, I know there's that argument of where else you're meant to play, but I don't know, Twickenham maybe.
What? No, we couldn't.
I just think that it loses a bit of authority because Wembley Stadium. Right, so here's my opinion: semi-finals should be played at neutral grounds, like they used to be. Villa Park, Ellen Road, Old Trafford.
They should be played at the grounds where the two teams are closest to us. So if it's Newcastle and Sunderland, why don't they just make it like somewhere like North East?
Middlesbrough. Right.
Yeah. Like if it's two London teams, yeah, make it at Wembley. If it's two teams in like the Northwest, make it Old Trafford.
I just think it should be how it used to be. Have Wembley as the final zone. That's where you go for the final.
That's why
it
would be more iconic. Yeah.
Yeah. That if you make it that iconic, I think you bolster its value and its opinion. If it's used constantly, then you lose the magic of going to Wembley. I mean, I've been to Wembley to watch big games 3 times, and that was the playoff final that Aston Villa lost to Fulham, the playoff final that Aston Villa beat Derby, and the FA Cup semi-final against Liverpool. And in my opinion, the semi-final still shouldn't have been played there, even though we won the game and it was absolutely amazing. I still don't think the semi-final could have been played there because we won that game. And don't get me wrong, the atmosphere, the aftermath of it was absolutely amazing. But then you go back there, it's just like, that's meant to be the pinnacle. You know what I mean? Seeing your team win at Wembley in a cup final is meant to be the pinnacle. Watching your team win the semi-final at Wembley, I don't know. I don't think that's the pinnacle of the sport. I don't think that's what you should be travelling down to the capital for.
No, because obviously they used to play pretty much most, if not all, England games there.
What's your opinion on England going on tour in a way around the country and playing at these neutral grounds?
Well, it literally, I can't see any negative to it at all. It will get players more used to playing in different grounds. So Germany and Spain don't really have a home stadium. They just travel all around their own country, basically playing. It's more access to people going to watch England because nobody really wants to go watch England play a friendly against Montenegro or whatever.
Literally, but then you put it in Leeds and you bring it to their hometown, the people of Leeds, and you're gonna get more interest.
Yeah.
Same with King Power. I think that was a recent one, wasn't it? St Mary's the other day. By giving these neutral grounds, by giving these neutral grounds the England games, it's going to increase popularity. You're going to see more passion, that's for sure, because you've got the majority of people from that same place, from that same area. It's giving people and communities the funding. It's bringing a lot of people to these areas. You're helping the country more than if you were having a game at Wembley. You have an England game at Wembley and you've got people coming from all over the country to that one spot, people from other countries coming to that one spot. The only money you're bringing in is to London.
Yeah, it shouldn't be an exclusive London thing.
By having a game in Southampton, then you're redirecting the money just from the capital straight to St Mary's, straight to Southampton. I think that's the best thing that can be done. It's a good way of spreading the economy around.
And Wembley's not, it just doesn't look like a football ground, does it? When you actually go in it, the fans are so far away from the pitch. You could tell it was. I don't think it was purpose built.
I disagree there.
For football.
I do disagree. Purely because I feel like watching a football match at Wembley, I don't think there's anything like it. Take away the semi-final debate I said earlier. Take away the final debate. Take away everything. Look at it as going to watch your team surrounded by 30,000 odd others against 30,000 odd other fans. I think there's nothing like it.
But you could do that anywhere. You could literally split the stadium in half anywhere in any stadium in the world, and it will still bring a really good atmosphere.
But where in England are you going to get a round stadium like that and split in half evenly?
It doesn't have to be a round stadium, does it?
I don't think that other stadiums work. I don't know. Where are you going to find a big enough stadium in England to split the way Wembley does?
Old Trafford. I could name so many: Old Trafford, Anfield, Etihad, the Spurs ground, St James's Park.
But I don't think you get the same. I don't think you get the same experience watching football in those grounds as you do in Wembley.
Yeah, but that's like the historical argument about Wembley's an experience. It is, But that will soon wear out because it literally only has 12 years of history.
There is that point. So, anyway, moving on. We're going to talk about Liverpool, and I can already see the comments down below snapping.
You
about,
fucking salty Liverpool fans.
about the opinions. Basically, the main thing we're going to be looking at today is Liverpool and their transfer business in the summer, which wasn't a lot. Let's focus in on the start of the season. They've had a great start. There's no taking that away.
Yeah.
They lost the Community Shield to Man City by margins. Let's be honest. You can't fault their start to the season. They've beat Arsenal. They've looked solid against every team they've played. Van Dijk looks as good as ever. Salah started well. Mane started well.
I get really wound up when people compliment Liverpool because I hate him so much.
Firmino started well. I mean, look, you can't doubt their start to the season, but we know it's a long, long season.
Yeah.
And we also know that Liverpool, it's just in their DNA that they struggle in the Premier League. I mean, we've seen that. They haven't won the Premier League. They got ever so close last year, as they did to City in 2014.
It's the second mention of the Gerrard slip. Come on, H.
But, right, you reckon they should have done business?
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from, and I'll listen to your points in due course, but I don't think they should have had that much pressure to do business as people were putting on them. And I'm not one to usually compliment Liverpool, but in this case, I don't blame them. So we've got to look at the facts. Last season, they could have easily won the league. They got
Not really, though.
Yes, they got unbelievably close. They got the best second place team finish in history of the Premier League, and they won the Champions League. Does it get much better than that for a team that hasn't won the league? I don't think so.
Well, yeah, it does get much better than that, and that's by actually winning the league.
But that's not my point. What I'm saying is, there's not a lot more they could have done. My second
They could have won every game. That's what more they could have done. If you don't win every game, then your squad is not perfect.
Well, yeah,
and you should be improving.
Either way, how did you get into that team? Who do you sign that walks into that team within reason? So we're not talking about Liverpool going out there and signing Messi, signing Neymar, signing like Ronaldo. Within reason, who you signing and getting into that team?
That's not our problem, though. That's for the Liverpool scouts to decide who to sign.
But can you reason with them in the fact that their team is very, very good and it lacks areas to improve? And here's my main point against you in this argument, is you're going to say depth, I'm guessing. You're going to touch on depth and how City, everyone looks at their team and they have like an amazing backup team, B team, as Jose Mourinho said. But you've got to remember, Liverpool's fringe players stepped up to the mark last season when they were needed. Shaqiri against Man United, right?
But how often were they actually needed, though, apart from coming off the bench?
Yeah, but I'm telling you, mate, Shaqiri against Man United, and on other occasions as well, lots of people would agree with me, he had a good season for a bench player. You've also got to look at Divock Origi, who obviously he had a remarkable Champions League and even got into the team when Firmino was injured and nailed down a place. Joel Matip and Joe Gomez alternating. Obviously Gomez had an injury last season, but their fringe players have stepped up to the mark. I don't think there's a lot. They finished 1 point behind City last year and pipped City to the Champions League final. No, Champions League medal. So what more could they do?
How many long-term injuries did their front three have? None, exactly. So you are taking a risk by not bringing back up to those front three, thinking that they are going to survive all 38 games without getting injured or suspended. So that's why you really need to sign backup. They've got backup for Salah and Shaqiri. They've got backup for Firmino and Origi. But they've got no backup for Mane. If Mane's already played in the summer the Africa Cup of Nations. Their squad wasn't good enough to win the league last season. So in what way is it going to be good enough to win the league this season?
If you look last season, all it would have took for City is to lose one game and Liverpool would have won the league.
But they didn't, though. That's the thing. City have strengthened their squad with Rodri and Cancelo, and Liverpool haven't. So Man City have got better, and Liverpool stayed the same. So if Man City were better already than Liverpool, how does Klopp think that he's actually gonna do?
But you talk about long-term injuries. Laporte is already out for 6 months. He was one of their key players and is one of the best centre-backs in the league.
But they've still got Otamendi, they've still got Stones.
You trust Otamendi and John Stones to hold you out for a Premier League title?
Yeah, I honestly do. I do. They are good. They are a very, very good partnership.
In my opinion, I don't. I think the potential has always been there for Stones. I think he had a good season the year before last. But you got to look at the facts here. Is he good enough to be at the top level for a sustained period of time, 38-game season?
Do you think that Jurgen Klopp is looking at that Man City squad and thinks that he can compete with that, honestly?
I think he is.
No.
I think he is. If he concentrates on his game, we know they can beat City. They've proved they can beat City.
Yeah.
If he looks at his own game, at the moment, I can't see who beats Liverpool in the rest of the league. I can't see who does it.
Liverpool have got a very good A team.
But
an average bench
answer my question,
and no C team.
Answer my question. Who beats Liverpool other than City? And City at their top game?
There is more chance of Liverpool slipping up than Man City because if you look at Liverpool got a great A team. All right bench and no third team. No C players. Man City have got a great A team, a great B team, and great players that don't even make their bench.
Right, so if we're going to compare the A teams, you've got Ederson and Alisson. Who are you having?
It's not the point about comparing them.
No, but I am comparing them.
Okay.
You're saying that not many.
Ederson's better.
Right, and then you've got the centre half. You're having Van Dijk over Laporte.
Yeah.
Then you have a centre back. You've got Gomez, I'd say, or Matip versus Stones or Otamendi. You said last week on record you like Gomez as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd probably go for both Gomez and Matip.
And then you got Trent versus Walker or Cancelo.
Yeah.
Trent.
Yeah.
Then you've got Robertson versus Zinchenko.
Yeah.
Then you've got.
Their midfield is incomparable.
Yeah. Okay. Now that's where City win the midfield battle because you've got like De Bruyne, Fernandinho.
But however
Rodri.
good Liverpool's defence is, Man City have still got Aguero, they've still got De Bruyne, they've still got Bernardo, they've still got Sterling.
Sane,
they've still
Mahrez.
got literally Man City can unlock any defence no matter how good they are. So I don't think if you compare I don't think it's relevant if you compared Man City's back four to Liverpool's back four. So not one of Liverpool's front three players actually suffered a long-term injury. It was almost like that Leicester season when they won the league. The less said about that, the better. Shaqiri is the only cover for Salah. But I just don't see how Liverpool can sustain their momentum all the way through the season without someone important getting injured. Because Van Dijk is crucial to them, as is their front three. So they've got four already irreplaceable players.
If Van Dijk gets injured, I can see where you're coming from. I don't worry as such with the front three though. They got goals coming all over their team there.
So who are you putting in then if Mane gets injured?
If Mane gets injured, so what? You've got Salah and Firmino fit.
Yeah.
Then you put Origi on the left wing.
He can't. No.
He has. He's played on the left wing before.
Left wing
what you do if you're Klopp is you bring your wingers tighter into the striker.
But then that's changing. But that's changing your style of play. Do you ever see Pep Guardiola change his style of play if someone's injured? No, you don't, because his squad depth is that good.
Klopp's done it before, and it's worked. He's dropped Salah into that striker role and then pushed Firmino back into cam. He's played Firmino as a striker and played Salah on the right wing. I'm telling you, he's done it before and it's worked. He's not afraid to change his system. Yes, he's got his best system. We know that. Every team's got their best system. But Klopp's not afraid to change it, and it's worked before.
But Guardiola doesn't have to adapt if someone gets injured, but Klopp does. You've just said right there that if Mane gets injured, Klopp has to adapt his system.
I haven't said he has to. I'm saying he can do what he's done before and play Origi on the wing. And if he's not happy, he's got the option, as Origi's a natural striker, to bring him in. What? There's my point.
But so you take Aguero out the Man City team. Is there anything different about the Man City team?
Yeah, I don't think Jesus is as good as a player as Aguero is.
But are they the same type of player? And are Man City still a normal team without Aguero?
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
they
so
are.
Sane's injured. Sterling gets injured. Who you playing left wing? Bear in mind, you cannot play Mahrez left wing when he's a left-footed only, and you're resting a lot on whipping the balls in there, which I don't think City do a lot.
So you're saying if 2 players for Man City get
So
injured, which is a really, really small possibility.
But that's the same with Liverpool. So Liverpool have got Origi and Shaqiri. In my opinion, you can play across the front three, any position, other than Shaqiri up front. That's the one I wouldn't go for. Surely it's a similar situation to City. I'm not arguing the fact that City have better B team players here. I'm arguing the fact that I don't think Liverpool are in trouble if they get a long-term injury up top.
I think they are massively in trouble. I honestly do, because you've got, for 3 players, 2 cover players. One of them you're saying can't even play a position, which is Shaqiri up front.
But would you play Sane up front if he is fit and Sterling gets injured?
But you wouldn't have to, though, because Jesus is there.
What if Jesus is injured? He suffered from long-term injuries before.
Yeah, but you wouldn't necessarily have Aguero and Jesus injured at the same time. That is a really, really slim possibility. It's a massive possibility.
Yeah, but so is the possibility of Mane getting injured at the same time as Firmino or Salah. Surely.
But it's really frustrating because I can't actually understand your point.
What I'm saying is, you said to me that Liverpool would struggle if one of their front 3 had a long-term injury, whereas City wouldn't.
Yeah.
What I'm saying to you is, I don't think Liverpool's depth is as bad as people seem. Obviously, City's better, and they've got the better quality in reserve. But I think that if Liverpool got an injury, a single injury, along their front 3, they have Shaqiri, who can play both wings. They've got Origi, who stepped up to the plate last year, who can play up front and on either wing. I don't think it's as bad as you're making it seem. Whereas City, obviously they've got 2 players for each position. I'm not doubting that they're better than Liverpool in depth, but I just don't think Liverpool would be in a massive crisis if they did.
How much do Liverpool rely on their front 3?
You say rely like that's a bad thing. They're in a position there to score goals.
Yeah, they are.
Their midfielders.
If their whole team is fit. All right. If both whole teams are fit, who's better, Man City or Liverpool?
Liverpool.
Well, then we've literally proven they're not by last season. Man City finishing above them in the league and beating them.
But they won the Champions League.
But that's a cup competition, and anything can happen in cup competitions, can't they? Man City won the FA Cup and the Carling Cup.
Yeah. Okay. Right. That is a debatable topic. I see where you're coming from, and one day you can be in favour of City, and one day you can be in favour of Liverpool. I'm just looking back at the head-to-head between the two, and I just feel like Liverpool do, in a head-to-head game, pip them just because of the intensity they put on that back four City, which I don't think is as good as Liverpool's. Anyway, we'll leave a poll to the right of the screen where you can leave your opinion as to whether Liverpool would be in trouble if they got a long-term injury to one of their front 3. Obviously, it's a debatable topic, and Liverpool fans, you may agree with me or you may agree with Tommy. But yeah, leave your opinion.
They won't never agree with me because I brought up the Gerrard slip twice.
Anyway, moving on. So, we're going to talk about an issue which affects people who go to see their club home and away, and that's ticket prices. Now, I know a lot of people are very passionate about this topic, and I think everybody agrees that ticket prices should be much lower than they are, especially in the country that we live in, compared to some of the countries like Germany and Spain. So here's my point. I think that the fact that you have to pay, if you're an adult, to some football grounds more than £30 is an absolute disgrace to watch a football team play. You got to look at the players' wages they're earning. They're earning 50 grand a week, and you're having to pay £30 just to see them play for 90 minutes, right? They put in a bad performance, that's £30 down the drain for a start.
You're actually sounding like a really anti-football rugby person at the moment, where you try to justify why players are paid too much.
No, I'm not saying players are paid too much. I'm saying I'm all for players getting paid however much, but surely the ticket prices should be less if they're able to finance their players getting paid 50 grand a week. But this is what I'm focusing in on here. Bayern Munich's season ticket price in Germany, the best team in Germany, and one of the top, we're looking at the top 6, top 7 in Europe. Their season ticket price last season was €105. You compare, you think about the quality that you're getting by watching them each week.
Yeah.
the quality of football you get to watch. You get to watch Champions League, the Bundesliga, which is
Does that include the cup games as well? Does it?
Yeah. What I'm saying is, you compare that to Arsenal's, which is rounded to a grand. The quality of football you're watching there,
fucking shit,
is unbelievable. The golfing quality. We saw it a few years ago with the 10-2 on aggregate. It is just unbelievable. But I just don't see where the justification comes in there. If Bayern Munich can do it for £105, €105, just near enough £100, why can't Arsenal? Bolton Wanderers charged £50 for a game last season for an away fan.
That's crazy.
2 Bolton Wanderers away days, you could get a Bayern Munich season ticket.
That is crazy. Yeah.
You're a Villa fan, £27 for an adult. That's near enough 4 or 5 games you get to see. Bayern Munich season ticket. You get to go watch. You get to go watch
17 home games a season.
You get to go watch Lewandowski. You get to watch Manuel Neuer. You get to go watch Tolisso. You get to go watch Gnabry. You get to watch world class players, or you can go watch Bolton Wanderers twice on the way there and go watch fucking Adam Lafondre last season.
But why is it that the prices in England are so dear?
And that's the question we've got to look at. So
I honestly don't know.
In my opinion, a lot of it's got to come down to the Premier League and the amount of money the league brings in from foreign viewers, and the fact that the money circulating around it is just so extensive that the money bought in for the gates needs to go towards the club in order to keep them financed, especially in the Championship. And a lot of people who went to away days in the Championship, and a lot of people who have done away days in the Championship, will know how expensive some grounds can be to go into. Like away tickets, I'm talking base ticket, not the actual price of a pint or travel or anything like that. They've got to be able to finance their clubs. They've got to be able to bring the money in. Why Bayern Munich can charge €105 compared to a grand for Arsenal is an absolute joke. Purely because you've got to look. Is it down to pure generosity? I don't know.
I'm on the Spurs season ticket waiting list, and to do that you have to become a member, so you've got to pay £25 a year. So say I was on the waiting list for 10 years, that's £250 before I've even got my season ticket.
See, the problem is, and I'm not saying the Germans aren't obsessed with football, because they are. They're mad for football. But the Germans don't take advantage of their people in the sense that they're going to think, right, our people love football, let's slap a massive price tag on it because we know they'll pay it. Whereas over in England, that's exactly what we do. We know. The clubs know that those gates and those tickets will be filed through. What's stopping them slapping a price on their away tickets, on their home tickets, on their season tickets? Nothing, right? They can charge as much as they want. They know they're going to get that money for the gate one way or another. Let's admit it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's got to come down to good morale from both boards of football, the FA, the German FA. Surely, I mean, what can you do to solve this issue? I've put down here 20's plenty. The movement for ticket prices.
Yeah.
Trying to tell me any more than £20 is justified for a ticket.
It's actually quite funny because I'm pretty sure the Premier League had a vote very recently about capping the tickets for the away ticket prices even. And Daniel Levy was against it.
Exactly.
Shocker.
Which, can you exactly be surprised with? I don't think so. But it's not just tickets you've got to focus in on. You've bought your ticket for £20. You've still got to focus in on the amount of money you're paying for travel.
Yeah, they should do travel tickets for.
I just feel like
fans.
£20 is absolutely plenty for a ticket. I don't know enough to go into great depth on this topic, as in to pull out facts and figures onto why this is the case. But obviously, if anybody has their opinion or could give us insights themselves as to why we charge so much compared to other nations, then please feel free to.
I honestly think it's just because the owners know that without football on the weekends, we wouldn't really know what to do with ourselves, so they just take advantage of that. It's consumer capitalism, really.
Is much of it down to BT and Sky providing much more games to people, therefore meaning that people don't have to travel to games.
But BT and Sky, I've always said it, of like, they are one of the biggest problems really with the football at the moment and how it's pricing fans out of going to watch games.
I feel I do agree with that, and we can look at the fact that 3 o'clocks aren't on TV legally, right? That is to save the art of going to watch a football team. But is it helped that literally 5-10 minutes after the game's finished, you can watch the highlights on YouTube?
No,
I don't think so. The way that we had it growing up, where every game now and then would be on Sky, no BT Sport knocking around.
it was ESPN, wasn't it?
You had the odd game on. We're talking the odd game on ESPN.
It was
not
the
as much.
R5, yeah.
Not as much as BT Sport. But what I'm saying is, then you'd have match of the day 10:30. You had time. It gave people chance to go to the game at their local team or the ground that they're closest to, and then go home and watch the highlights. There'd be no need not to go to the game. But now, you're kind of getting the highlights at 4 o'clock. What's stopping you from sitting down, checking the highlights straight after the game, and then you've saved yourself £20 on a ticket? If that we're talking 20's plenty here. Like, you're spending £30 plus on a ticket, travel to see your team lose, or you can watch the highlights on YouTube 10 minutes after kickoff's finished.
Yeah. After kickoff's finished?
After the full-time whistle. Right, so yeah, please feel free to leave your opinion on that.
Can anyone actually tell us like why the ticket prices here are so much? Because I genuinely don't know.
I can't see any logic behind it other than the FAs have done nothing about it. Maybe the German FA have. I don't know. We'll have to research it and we'll come back to that in another episode. I think we're going to call it time on this week's podcast anyway. It's been a week of... It's been hard this week because obviously we had internationals and there hasn't been that much serious news popping up in, like, obviously the footballing kind of category. We're going to, as I said last week, we're going to try and get some guests on soon, as in people who want to come and let their opinion go wild on the pod.
We've got a spare mic now that Joe's gone.
Yeah, we've got a spare mic over to the left of us, so if anybody does want to come on, literally just give us their opinion and get their opinion out there for the world to hear, just drop us a message on any of our social medias, or drop me a message, Harry, or drop Tommy a message, either way.
And that's not you, Joe.
Get in contact with us, and we'll feel free to get you on. So yeah, we're going to leave you with a bit of outro music here of the Ernest Spears that we shouted out earlier. Be sure to check them out. Be sure to check out Big Bold Fitness by Alfredo Donahoe in the description.
Sitting on a curb, watching time fly by. Yes, I'm this absurd, sucking on a rolling, still staring hard, realizing people watching really isn't ours. Happy, go lucky, watching the time fly by. Happy or unlucky, the reason is still unsure why, oh why, oh why. Time really does fly by when you're having fun. I think I'm gonna have to roll off a bun. Raindrops start to tap on my head. I can smell the concrete starting absorb the wet. Inspiration is hard to come across. I guess we'll have to class it as another loss. Happy go lucky, watching the time fly by. Happy wasn't lucky, but the reason is still unsure why. Oh why, oh why? White and yellow lines, cracked drain pipes, people walking, people staring, cars driving by, fish and chips, green trees, summer leaves, cool breeze. Stop, search and seize. Stop, search and seize. Happy go lucky, watching the time fly by. Happy wasn't lucky, but the reason is still unsure why. Oh why, oh why? Why you happy? Go lucky. Are you happy? Or unlucky? Are you happy? Go lucky. Why you happy? Or unlucky?